My name is Sophia Williams, and I just turned 29. For the past 9 years, my family has completely forgotten my birthday while throwing extravagant celebrations for my younger sister Amelia. I've always been the invisible middle child, the one who fades into the background while everyone else shines. But this year was different. This year, I finally decided I was done being forgotten. Done being a ghost in my own family. Done watching from the sidelines while they celebrated everyone but me. Before I tell you how I finally stopped being the family ghost, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you've ever felt invisible in your own family. Growing up in our spacious colonial home in an affluent Boston suburb, the Williams family appeared picture-perfect from the outside. My father Michael is a renowned cardiovascular surgeon at Massachusetts General Hospital, my mother Jennifer a high-powered corporate attorney with a corner office overlooking the Boston Harbor. Success and achievement weren't just encouraged in our household, they were expected. The baseline. The minimum standard. My older brother Jason, now 33, was always the golden child. With his perfect grades, athletic prowess, and charismatic personality, he checked every box my parents valued. After graduating from Harvard Business School, he launched a successful tech startup that got acquired for millions before he turned 30. My parents display his awards and newspaper features prominently in our family living room, and my father never misses an opportunity to mention my son, the entrepreneur, at his hospital galas. Then there's Amelia, my younger sister. At 24, she's the baby of the family, the precious afterthought who arrived when my parents were established enough to fully indulge her. With her stunning looks and bubbly personality, Amelia has been pursuing an acting and modeling career in New York. Despite minimal success so far, my parents fund her apartments, headshots, classes, and audition trips, convinced she's destined for stardom. Her gorgeous face is plastered across our family photo albums and social media accounts. And then there's me, Sophia, the middle child. The mediator. The responsible one who never caused trouble. I was a solid A student, though not valedictorian like Jason. I played violin competently but never earned first chair. I volunteered regularly but never started a nonprofit like my brother. I was good, just never exceptional enough to warrant the spotlight in a family that worshipped excellence. I became a pediatric nurse, a career choice that puzzled my parents. With your grades, you could have been a doctor, my father would say, his disappointment barely concealed. What he never understood was that I chose nursing because I wanted to comfort children, to be the steady, caring presence during their scariest moments. But caring for others wasn't prestigious enough in the Williams family hierarchy of accomplishments. The pattern of being overlooked started early. When I was 10, my piano recital was scheduled the same day as Jason's regional tennis championship. There was never any question about which event my parents would attend. When I graduated high school with honors, my parents hosted a modest dinner. When Amelia graduated years later with average grades, they threw a garden party with hired caterers and a live band. My best friend Taylor has witnessed this pattern since we met in college. Your family acts like you're an extra in their movie instead of a main character, she observed after spending Thanksgiving with us during sophomore year. I laughed it off then, but her words captured something I hadn't been able to articulate. They don't mean to, I would always defend them. They're just busy, and Jason and Amelia need more attention. No, Sophia, Taylor would counter, her eyes serious. Everyone deserves to be seen, especially by their own family. Our family home reflected our dynamics perfectly. Jason's accomplishments filled the formal living room, the space visitors saw first. Amelia's modeling shots and theater programs covered the refrigerator and hallway walls. My nursing school graduation photo sat alone on a side table in the rarely used den, often covered by magazines or mail. As the middle child, I developed the typical psychological profile, the peacemaker, the people pleaser, the one who absorbed family tension and smoothed over conflicts. When my parents argued about Jason's risky business ventures or Amelia's expensive acting classes, I was the one who calmed everyone down, made coffee, and steered conversations to safer topics. I became so good at managing others' emotions that I nearly lost touch with my own. I lived in a modest apartment just outside Boston, close enough to help when family needs arose but far enough to have some separation. My apartment was filled with plants, books, and comfortable furniture, a nurturing space where I could decompress after long hospital shifts. Unlike the pristine aesthetic of my parents' home, my space was lived in and personal. It was the first place that felt truly mine. At work, I found purpose. My colleagues respected my skills and dedication. The children I cared for lit up when I entered their rooms, appreciating the small kindnesses I offered, a gentle voice, a careful explanation of procedures, a hand to hold during painful treatments. In the pediatric oncology ward, I was valued in ways my family never managed to express. "You're the best nurse on this floor," Dr. Campbell, the department head, told me after I spent a full night comforting a terrified 4-year-old after his first chemotherapy treatment. "The kids feel safe with you." Those words meant everything to me, filling a void my family's indifference had created. Yet somehow, external validation never quite healed the core wound of being unseen by those who should have seen me first. The first forgotten birthday happened 9 years ago when I turned 20. I was in my sophomore year at Boston University, studying nursing and working part-time at a campus cafe. My birthday fell on a Friday that year, and I'd arranged to have the weekend off so I could visit home, expecting at least a family dinner or small celebration. When I arrived home Friday evening, wheeling my small overnight bag through the front door, I was greeted by chaos. The living room was filled with party supplies, colorful decorations covered the dining table, and my mother was on the phone with a caterer, gesturing animatedly. "Oh, Sophia, you're here," she said, covering the phone briefly. "Drop your bag in your room. I need your opinion on these color schemes for Amelia's Sweet 16. I stood frozen in the entryway. "Mom, today is my birthday." There was a brief pause as confusion crossed her face, followed by realization and then dismissal. "Oh. Right, happy birthday, honey. We've been so busy planning for Amelia's party next week that it completely slipped my mind. We'll do something for you tomorrow, okay? Now, which do you think, silver and purple or gold and white theme?" That night, there was no cake, no card, not even a proper acknowledgement from either parent. My father came home late from a surgery, nodded at me in passing, and immediately joined my mother at the dining table to review the guest list for Amelia's extravaganza. The next day brought no improvement. My parents spent Saturday at various vendors, ordering the custom 3-tier cake, selecting flower arrangements, and finalizing the DJ's playlist for Amelia's party. By Sunday, when I was preparing to return to campus, my mother suddenly remembered. "Oh, Sophia, we never did anything for your birthday." "Here," she said, reaching into her purse and handing me a $100 bill. "Get yourself something nice. We'll make it up to you next year, I promise. It's just that Amelia's Sweet 16 is such a milestone." I took the money, forcing a smile. "It's fine, Mom. No big deal." But it was a big deal. 20 was a milestone too. It just wasn't my milestone that mattered. The contrast between my forgotten birthday and Amelia's celebration 2 weeks later couldn't have been more stark. My parents spent nearly $10,000 on her party, transforming our backyard into a fairy tale setting with twinkling lights, a dance floor, and professional photographers. Amelia arrived in a custom-designed dress that cost more than my semester textbooks. She was presented with a diamond necklace from my parents and a weekend trip to New York from Jason. During the party, I helped serve food, took coats, and directed guests to the restrooms. My Aunt Lauren, my mother's sister, found me arranging cupcakes on a display stand. "Happy belated birthday, Sophia," she said quietly, handing me a small wrapped package. "I'm sorry I missed it." "How did you know?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "I put all my nieces' and nephews' birthdays in my calendar," she replied, her eyes reflecting a sadness that matched my own. I noticed no one mentioned it. They were busy with all this. I gestured around, making excuses as always. Aunt Lauren squeezed my arm. "You deserve celebration too, Sophia. Her small gift, a delicate silver bracelet, became my most treasured possession that year. I told myself the first forgotten birthday was an anomaly, a simple oversight during a busy time. But then came year 2. On my 21st birthday, arguably one of the most celebrated American milestones, my family forgot again. This time, the excuse was Jason's business launch party scheduled for the following weekend. When I called home, my father answered. "Dad, I was wondering if you and Mom wanted to come up to Boston this weekend to celebrate my birthday? I'm turning 21. There was a pause. This weekend? Sophia, we've got investors flying in from California for Jason's launch. Your mother has been preparing for weeks. Can't we do it another time? No cake was sent, no card arrived in the mail, not even a proper phone call on the actual day. By the 3rd year, there weren't even excuses anymore. My birthday simply ceased to exist in the Williams family calendar. I stopped mentioning it, stopped hoping, stopped setting myself up for disappointment. Taylor became my birthday companion, taking me to dinner at our favorite restaurant each year, presenting me with thoughtfully selected gifts that showed she had been paying attention to my interests and desires all year. "They don't deserve you," she would say as we shared dessert and wine. "Their loss, not yours." But it felt like my loss. Each forgotten birthday carved a deeper hollow in my chest. Each year I told myself it didn't matter, and each year the evidence mounted that I didn't matter, at least not to the people who had brought me into this world. On my 25th birthday, Taylor and I were joined by my coworker Mason, who had noticed me looking downcast during our shift and insisted on taking me out after work. "No one should drink alone on their birthday," he said, raising a toast at the small corner table of a dimly lit restaurant. "Who said I'd be alone?" "I have Taylor," I responded, trying to sound upbeat. "True, but now you have Taylor and Mason, which is objectively better," he grinned. That night, surrounded by 2 people who had chosen to celebrate me, I realized something critical: family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who shows up, who remembers, who makes the effort to say "you matter to me" in both words and actions. Still, every year when I blew out my candles, always on a small cake Taylor brought to our dinner, I made the same wish, that next year, my family would remember. They never did. Being systematically forgotten by your own family does something to a person. It reshapes you from the inside out, alters how you move through the world, how you perceive yourself, how you engage in relationships. By my 26th birthday, I had developed sophisticated coping mechanisms to deal with the annual disappointment. I became an expert at lowering expectations, not just for my birthday but for any form of recognition or appreciation from my family. I stopped mentioning my accomplishments at work, didn't tell them when I received the hospital's Compassionate Care Award, didn't share that I had been promoted to charge nurse of the pediatric oncology unit. What was the point? Their standard response was always a distracted "that's nice, honey," before shifting the conversation to Jason's latest business venture or Amelia's callback audition. The psychological impact ran deeper than I initially realized. In romantic relationships, I found myself constantly anticipating abandonment. I dated kind men who treated me well, yet I remained vigilant for signs they were losing interest, growing bored, finding someone more special. I overcompensated by being the perfect girlfriend, supportive, undemanding, accommodating to a fault. "You never say what you want," complained Eric, my boyfriend of 8 months, as we stood in his apartment having our final argument. "It's like you're afraid to take up space in your own relationship." After he left, his words haunted me because they contained an uncomfortable truth. I had become so accustomed to being overlooked that I had learned to make myself smaller, less visible, less troublesome. I had internalized the message that my wants and needs were secondary, optional extras to be addressed if convenient. Work became my sanctuary, the place where I was valued and necessary. I took extra shifts, volunteered for holidays, stayed late to comfort parents receiving difficult diagnoses for their children. The pediatric oncology ward was emotionally demanding but offered a strange comfort. There, I was essential. The children asked for me by name. The doctors respected my assessments. The parents thanked me with teary eyes and heartfelt notes. You practically live here, Mason commented one evening as we were updating charts at the nurse's station. Do you have some secret apartment in the supply closet? I laughed but didn't answer directly. How could I explain that the hospital felt more like home than my actual apartment because here, people noticed if I didn't show up? At 27, I finally started therapy. Dr. Rivera was a compassionate woman with thoughtful eyes who specialized in family dynamics and adult children of emotionally unavailable parents. During our first session, I downplayed my situation. It's really not that bad, I insisted. They're good people, just busy and preoccupied. They provide for me growing up. They paid for college. Dr. Rivera listened patiently before asking, and what about emotional provisions, Sophia? Were those needs met? That question cracked something open inside me. Over the next months, our sessions helped me understand how my family's pattern of neglect had shaped my self-perception. I learned that my tendency to overgive while expecting little in return wasn't generosity, it was a trauma response. I discovered that my difficulty articulating my own desires stemmed from years of having them dismissed or overlooked. Your feelings matter, Dr. Rivera would remind me. Your needs matter. You matter. Simple words, yet they felt revolutionary. I repeated them like a mantra, trying to rewrite the internal script that told me I was perpetually less important than everyone else in the room. Mason's friendship became increasingly significant during this period of self-discovery. Unlike Taylor, who had witnessed my family dynamics for years and harbored justified resentment toward them, Mason offered a fresh perspective. You know what's crazy about your situation? He said one night as we shared pizza after a particularly difficult shift. You're literally the most attentive person I know. You remember everyone's birthday on the floor, you notice when someone's having a rough day, you bring coffee exactly how people like it. Somehow you developed the opposite quality of what you experienced. His observation startled me. It was true, I had become hyper-aware of others' needs precisely because mine had gone unmet for so long. I kept a calendar of important dates for friends and coworkers, remembered their food preferences and allergies, noticed subtle shifts in their moods. I had transformed my wound into a superpower of sorts, though the cost had been steep. The breaking point came after my 28th birthday, which coincided with a family dinner for my father's hospital award. I sat at the elegant restaurant table, watching my parents and siblings celebrate my father's achievement. The waiter brought out a surprise cake with "Congratulations, Dr. Williams" written in chocolate. Everyone applauded. No one remembered that it was also my birthday. Later that night, I sobbed in Taylor's apartment, released years of accumulated hurt. I don't understand, I cried. How can they just not remember? Am I that forgettable? That unimportant? No, Taylor said firmly, holding my shoulders. You are not forgettable. You are not unimportant. They're just incredibly self-absorbed people who failed at one of the most basic parental responsibilities, making their child feel valued. Mason, who had joined us after receiving Taylor's SOS text, added, at some point, this stops being about your birthday and starts being about basic respect. You deserve better, Sophia. For the first time, I truly heard them. I deserved better. And if my family couldn't provide it, maybe it was time to stop expecting them to. Maybe it was time to provide it for myself. 3 months ago, my sister Amelia turned 24. For this momentous occasion, though what makes 24 more momentous than 29, I still can't tell you, my parents rented the entire rooftop lounge of Boston's newest luxury hotel. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city skyline and harbor, complemented by arrangements of fresh white roses and orchids on every surface. A string quartet played softly in one corner while servers circulated with trays of champagne and gourmet appetizers. I arrived early to help with final arrangements, as always the responsible one making sure everything ran smoothly. My mother fluttered about in a designer dress, checking place cards and adjusting floral centerpieces. Sophia, thank goodness you're here, she said, not looking up from her task. The event coordinator mixed up the specialty cocktail menu. Can you sort it out with the bartender? And make sure they have Amelia's favorite champagne chilled properly. No hello. No how are you. Just tasks to complete for the Golden Child celebration. The guest list included 60 people, family friends, my parents' colleagues, Amelia's modeling connections, and several producers my father had somehow networked with. The entire event had been meticulously designed around Amelia's preferences, from the custom photo backdrop featuring her modeling portfolio images to the specialty menu accommodating her latest dietary restrictions. As guests arrived, I watched my mother transform into the perfect hostess, glowing with pride as she introduced Amelia to important connections. My father worked the room with practiced ease, one hand often resting on Amelia's shoulder as he guided her toward people she should meet. She gets more beautiful every year, I overheard one of my mother's friends comment. She's going to be a star, Jennifer, mark my words. My mother beamed. We think so too. She's got a big audition next month for a supporting role in that new period drama. We're all very excited. I circulated through the party, refilling drinks, directing guests to the restrooms, making sure everything ran smoothly while remaining practically invisible. No one asked what I had been doing or how my work was going. I was furniture, a utilitarian presence serving a function rather than a person to be engaged with. Midway through the evening, my father clinked his glass for attention and launched into an elaborate speech about Amelia. From the moment she was born, he began, voice thick with emotion, we knew Amelia was special. She has a light inside her that draws people to her, a talent and presence that can't be taught. He raised his glass higher. To our beautiful, talented daughter on her 24th birthday. The world is just beginning to see what we've always known, you're extraordinary, Amelia. We couldn't be prouder. Guests applauded enthusiastically as Amelia pretended to wipe away tears before giving a practiced, perfect speech thanking our parents for their unwavering support and belief in my dreams. I stood in the corner, my chest tight with a familiar ache, watching this performance of family devotion. The same father who couldn't remember my birthday had just delivered a 5-minute ode to my sister's specialness. The same mother who had never thrown me a proper adult birthday party had spent weeks planning this extravaganza, down to customized napkins featuring Amelia's initials. Later, I overheard my parents discussing Amelia's birthday gift as they stood near the dessert table. Do you think she liked the bracelet? My mother asked, referring to the $5,000 Tiffany diamond piece they had presented earlier. Of course, my father replied. But I think she'll be even more excited about the surprise. The surprise, I later discovered, was an all-expenses-paid trip to Los Angeles for a series of auditions and meetings my father had arranged through his connections. I estimated they had spent at least $15,000 on this single night, not including the LA trip. Meanwhile, my last birthday had passed without so much as a text message. My Aunt Lauren found me on the terrace, taking a moment alone to compose myself. Quite the production, isn't it? She said, nodding toward the party inside. I attempted a smile. Amelia deserves to be celebrated. So do you, Lauren replied quietly. She studied me for a moment. This pattern with your parents, it's not about you, Sophia. It's about them and their strange priorities. She hesitated before adding, your mother was always the star in our family too. I know what it's like to stand in someone's shadow. Something in her words resonated deeply. For the first time, I wondered if this family pattern extended beyond my immediate experience. How did you handle it? I asked. Not well, for many years, she admitted. I kept hoping they'd finally see me, value me equally. But eventually I realized that waiting for them to change was giving away my power. She touched my arm gently. You're allowed to claim your own importance, you know. You don't need their permission to matter. As the party reached its peak, Jason arrived, fashionably late after flying in from London specifically for the celebration. He made a grand entrance, presenting Amelia with an expensive designer handbag she had been coveting. Everyone clustered around them, exclaiming over his generosity and the siblings' close bond. I watched from the periphery, the invisible sister completing the family tableau without actually being part of it. In that moment, something crystallized within me, a realization that this pattern would continue indefinitely unless I disrupted it. Another year would pass, another birthday would be forgotten, another celebration would center everyone but me. No more, I whispered to myself, the resolution forming like a stone in my chest. This is the last time. As my 30th birthday approached, a milestone by anyone's standards, I faced the dawning realization that I was about to complete a decade of being systematically forgotten by my own family. 10 years of making excuses for them, of diminishing my own hurt, of pretending it didn't matter. 10 years of watching them celebrate each other while I faded further into the background. During my therapy session 2 months before my birthday, I finally voiced what I had been struggling to acknowledge. I think I'm done, I told Dr. Rivera, my voice surprisingly steady. I'm tired of being the only one trying in this relationship. What would being done look like for you? She asked, her expression neutral but supportive. I considered this carefully. Not cutting them off completely, but stopping this cycle where I keep hoping for different results. Setting boundaries about how I allow myself to be treated. We spent the session exploring what healthy boundaries might look like in my specific family dynamic. Dr. Rivera helped me understand that boundaries weren't about controlling others' behavior but about determining my own responses and limits. Your 30th birthday offers a natural opportunity to establish a new pattern, she suggested. What would you like that to look like? For the first time, I allowed myself to envision a birthday that centered my desires rather than my family's convenience. A celebration where I felt seen and valued, whether they participated or not. That evening, I invited Taylor and Mason over to my apartment and shared my emerging plan. I'm going to host my own 30th birthday celebration, I announced as we sat around my small dining table. Nothing extravagant, but something meaningful. And I'm going to explicitly invite my family, not hint or hope, but directly tell them the date is important to me. Taylor raised her wineglass. It's about damn time. I'm 100% behind this. Mason nodded. What can we do to help? Their immediate support brought tears to my eyes. Just having you both there will be enough. But they insisted on more, helping me brainstorm ideas for a celebration that would reflect my personality and preferences. We settled on renting a private room at my favorite restaurant, with a small gathering of people who had actually been present in my life over the past decade. You should invite your Aunt Lauren too, Taylor suggested. She seems to be the only one in your family with her priorities straight. 2 weeks before my birthday, I called my parents to formally invite them. My mother answered, sounding distracted as usual. Mom, I wanted to let you know I'm hosting a small dinner for my 30th birthday. It's on Saturday the 15th at 7 at Olivetto's. I'd really love for you, Dad, Jason, and Amelia to come. There was a pause, followed by the sound of my mother checking her calendar. The 15th? Oh, Sophia, that's going to be difficult. Your father has a conference that weekend, and I think we're planning something for Amelia's audition preparation. My heart sank, but I pressed on. My birthday only happens once a year, Mom. And 30 is kind of a big one. I took a deep breath. It would mean a lot to me if you could make it. I'll talk to your father, but I can't promise anything. You know how busy things get. Why don't you come over for dinner the following weekend instead? The familiar pattern of dismissal and rescheduling to their convenience unfolded exactly as it always had. But this time I didn't immediately accommodate. I understand if you can't make it to my planned celebration, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. But I won't be changing the date. This is important to me. After hanging up, I sat in my apartment feeling a mixture of sadness and, surprisingly, relief. For once, I had clearly stated my needs instead of immediately abandoning them at the first sign of resistance. A few days later, Jason called, a rare occurrence that immediately raised my suspicions. Hey, sophomore, Mom mentioned something about a birthday dinner? I'm flying in from London that Friday, so I should be able to make it. His casual mention of my birthday, as if it were a minor detail he'd just happened to remember, sparked something unexpected within me. Jason, Do you realize that none of you have remembered my birthday for 9 consecutive years? The words came out before I could filter them. There was a long pause. What? That can't be right. It is right. Not a card, not a call, nothing. Meanwhile, I've watched all of you celebrate each other with parties and gifts and speeches about how special you all are. Another pause. Sophia, I'm sorry. I didn't. I guess I didn't notice. That's the problem, Jason. None of you noticed. The conversation ended awkwardly, with Jason promising to be at my dinner but leaving me uncertain whether he genuinely understood the deeper issue or was simply appeasing his suddenly emotional sister. The final breaking point came a week before my birthday when I stopped by my parents' house to drop off some medical paperwork my father had asked me to review. On their kitchen counter sat a stack of elegant invitations. Curious, I picked one up and felt my blood run cold. Join us in celebrating Amelia Williams' callback for Highland Manor. Saturday, April 15th, 7 p.m. My birthday. The exact date and time of my dinner. The celebration I had explicitly told them about. I stood frozen in their pristine kitchen, the invitation clutched in my trembling hand. This wasn't thoughtlessness or forgetfulness. This was deliberate. They had scheduled Amelia's party knowing full well it conflicted with my birthday dinner. My mother walked in, stopping short when she saw what I was holding. Sophia. I didn't hear you come in. You scheduled Amelia's celebration on my birthday, I said, my voice unnaturally calm. The same day and time as the dinner I told you about. My mother had the grace to look momentarily uncomfortable before shifting to justification mode. Honey, Amelia got this callback yesterday. It's a potentially career-changing opportunity, and we wanted to celebrate right away. We thought since you already had plans. Plans for my birthday, Mom. My 30th birthday that I specifically invited all of you to attend. Well, yes, but you'll have other birthdays. This callback is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for your sister. In that moment, something broke and reformed inside me. The hurt was still there, but now accompanied by a clarity and resolve I had never experienced before. You're right, I said quietly. I will have other birthdays. And I'll spend them with people who actually want to celebrate me. I set the invitation down carefully. Enjoy Amelia's party. I won't be attending. I left before she could respond, driving straight to Taylor's apartment where I finally allowed myself to break down. The tears came in heaving sobs, years of accumulated pain finding release. They scheduled another party on my birthday, I managed between gasps. They're not just forgetting anymore. They're actively choosing to celebrate someone else instead of me. Taylor and Mason, who came over immediately after she texted him, sat with me through the storm, neither trying to minimize my pain nor offering empty platitudes about family always loving you despite their actions. Later that night, after the tears had subsided, Mason looked at me seriously. So what now, Sophia? What do you want to do? I considered the question, feeling a strange sense of peace emerging from the devastation. I'm going forward with my dinner as planned. I'm going to celebrate turning 30 surrounded by people who actually see me. And then I'm going to have a long overdue conversation with my family about this pattern. Taylor squeezed my hand. Whatever you decide to do, we've got your back. For the first time in years, I felt something new regarding my birthday, anticipation rather than dread. I was taking back the day, reclaiming it as something worth celebrating regardless of my family's participation. The realization was both terrifying and liberating. I was finally choosing myself. The week leading up to my birthday was filled with purpose and determination. With Taylor and Mason's help, I finalized arrangements for my celebration at Olivetto's, a cozy Italian restaurant where the owner, Giuseppe, had come to know me over years of post-work dinners and quiet solo meals. When I explained what I was planning, he insisted on giving me their best private dining room at a discounted rate. 30 is special, he said with his warm Italian accent. We make it beautiful for you. I sent formal invitations to a carefully curated guest list, close friends from work, my running group, former classmates who had remained in my life, Aunt Lauren, and, despite everything, my family. Even knowing they wouldn't attend due to Amelia's conflicting party, I wanted the invitation to stand as a statement, "This day matters to me." My preparations were interrupted by a text from Jason, "Can we talk? I'll be in town tomorrow." We met at a coffee shop halfway between my apartment and our parents' house. Jason looked uncharacteristically uncomfortable, fidgeting with his espresso cup. "So, I heard about Amelia's party," he began. "Scheduled directly against my birthday dinner." "Yes," I replied, keeping my voice level. Jason winced. "I talked to Mom about it. She said it was just a coincidence with timing because of Amelia's callback." "Do you believe that?" He hesitated, then sighed. "I don't know, sophomore. But I started thinking about what you said about them forgetting your birthday for years, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time we actually celebrated you." He looked genuinely troubled. "That's not right." "No, it's not," I agreed, feeling a small measure of validation from his acknowledgement. "I'm sorry I've been part of that pattern," he continued. "I get so caught up in my own stuff and just follow Mom and Dad's lead when it comes to family events." His apology felt sincere, but I needed more than words. "What are you going to do about Amelia's party?" "It's still scheduled against my birthday dinner." Jason looked uncomfortable again. "I'm trying to talk to them about changing the date, but you know how they are once they've decided something." I nodded, a lifetime of experience with my parents' immovability when it suited them confirming his words. "Either way," he continued, "I want you to know I'll be at your dinner. Not Amelia's party." His statement surprised me. Jason had never previously chosen me over the family's preferred plans. I wasn't entirely convinced he would follow through, but his intention meant something. 2 days before my birthday, I made the hardest decision of all, confronting my parents directly about the years-long pattern. I drove to their house on a Wednesday evening, knowing they would both be home but Amelia would be at an acting workshop. My mother answered the door, surprise evident on her face. "Sophia. We weren't expecting you." "I need to talk to you and Dad," I said, my rehearsed speech already threatening to dissolve in the face of her familiar dismissive expression. "Is he home?" She led me to the living room where my father sat reviewing medical journals, reading glasses perched on his nose. He glanced up briefly. "Sophia, what brings you by?" I remained standing, knowing if I sat I might revert to my usual accommodating self. "I want to talk about my birthday and a pattern that's been happening for years now." My mother immediately launched into defense mode. "If this is about Amelia's party, we've already explained the timing situation. It can't be helped." "This isn't just about Amelia's party," I replied, my voice remarkably steady. "This is about 9 years of forgotten birthdays. 9 years of watching you celebrate everyone else in this family while completely ignoring my existence." My father removed his glasses, finally giving me his full attention. "That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? We've been busy, certainly, but ignoring your existence is an overstatement." "Is it?" I challenged. "When was the last time you remembered my birthday without being reminded? When was the last time you put the same effort into celebrating me that you put into Jason's business launches or Amelia's audition callbacks?" My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. "We've always treated all our children equally," my mother insisted. The absurdity of her statement broke something loose inside me. Years of careful restraint gave way to raw honesty. "That is absolutely untrue," I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts. "Jason gets celebrated for every business success. Amelia gets parties for callbacks she doesn't even book. Meanwhile, I've spent nearly a decade watching my birthday pass without so much as a text message from my own parents." "You're a grown woman," my father countered. "Birthday parties are for children." "Then why does Amelia, who is also a grown woman, have a scheduled birthday celebration every single year? Why did you throw a party for Jason's 35th just 6 months ago?" My parents seemed genuinely startled by the direct comparison, as if they'd never connected these dots before. "Sophia, if you felt left out, you should have said something, my mother deflected. We can't read minds. I have said something. Every year. And every year, you dismiss it or promise to make it up to me and never do. I took a deep breath. But this isn't really about birthdays. It's about a lifetime of being treated as less important, less worthy of attention and celebration than my siblings. My father stood up, his expression hardening. That's unfair, Sophia. We've supported you through nursing school, helped with your apartment down payment. I'm not talking about financial support, I interrupted. I'm talking about emotional support. About making me feel valued as a person, not just a responsibility you fulfilled. For nearly an hour, we went back and forth. My parents alternated between defensive justifications, guilt-inducing reminders of what they had provided, and minimizing my concerns. I remained firm, refusing to back down or accept their rewriting of history. Here's what I need you to understand, I finally said, emotionally exhausted but determined to finish. If my birthday doesn't matter to you, that's your choice. But I'm no longer going to pretend it doesn't hurt. I'm no longer going to show up for all of your celebrations while you ignore mine. If you can't make space to value me in this family, I'll create that space for myself elsewhere. My mother's eyes widened. Are you threatening to cut us off over a birthday party? No, I replied calmly. I'm establishing a boundary about how I deserve to be treated. I'm letting you know that your actions have consequences for our relationship. I left soon after, my parents still defensive but visibly shaken by my unprecedented stand. On the drive home, I alternated between panic over my boldness and a profound sense of relief. For the first time in my adult life, I had named the family dysfunction out loud instead of accommodating it. That night, I received a text from Aunt Lauren. Your mother called me, quite upset. I gather you finally told them some hard truths. I'm proud of you, Sophia. It's about time someone did. Her support strengthened my resolve to see this through, to remain firm even as the familiar guilt and second-guessing began to creep in. I had spent a lifetime being the peacemaker, the one who smoothed things over. Standing in my truth felt foreign but necessary. The day before my birthday, I received separate texts from both parents, stilted and formal, asking if they could still attend my dinner despite the scheduling conflict. I replied that they were welcome but that I expected them to stay for the entire evening, not make a brief appearance before heading to Amelia's celebration. They agreed, though I remained skeptical. That night, Taylor came over with wine and helped me prepare for the next day. No matter who shows up tomorrow, she said as we sat on my couch, you've already won by choosing yourself. You know that, right? I nodded, feeling the truth of her words settle into my bones. I do know that. For the first time, my birthday feels like it's actually about me. As it should be, she replied, raising her glass. To the new Sophia, who takes no shit and knows her worth. We clinked glasses, and I allowed myself to feel genuine excitement about the day ahead. Whatever happened with my family, I had already changed the narrative by refusing to be forgotten any longer. April 15th dawned clear and bright, a perfect spring day for my 30th birthday. I woke to a flood of text messages and social media notifications, friends, colleagues, and acquaintances all taking a moment to acknowledge my milestone. The contrast with previous birthdays, when I would anxiously check my phone for family messages that never came, wasn't lost on me. I spent the morning treating myself to small pleasures, a pastry from my favorite bakery, a long walk along the Charles River, a new dress purchased specifically for the evening's celebration. For once, I wasn't waiting for external validation to feel special. I was creating that feeling for myself. By 6:30, I arrived at Olivetto's to make final arrangements before guests arrived. Giuseppe had outdone himself, transforming the private dining room into an intimate, elegant space with soft lighting, fresh flowers, and a small table for gifts. A simple but beautiful cake waited on a side table, exactly as I had requested, with Happy 30th Birthday, Sophia written in elegant script. Perfect for a special lady, Giuseppe said with a warm smile, patting my hand. Your guests, they will arrive soon. Relax now. Taylor and Mason arrived first, helping me greet others as they came. By 7:15, the room was filled with laughter and conversation. My friends from the pediatric ward had come straight from their shifts, still in scrubs but bearing thoughtful gifts. My running group arrived together, presenting me with a new pair of high-end running shoes they had all contributed toward. Former classmates, neighbors, even my favorite barista from the coffee shop near my apartment, all people who had become meaningful parts of my daily life. Aunt Lauren arrived precisely at 7, elegant as always in a tailored pantsuit, carrying a beautifully wrapped package. "Happy birthday, my dear," she said, embracing me warmly. 30 looks beautiful on you. "Thank you for coming," I replied, genuinely moved by her presence. "It means a lot." She squeezed my hand. "I wouldn't miss it." "And Sophia?" Her eyes held mine steadily. "I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself. It takes courage to break family patterns." By 7:30, dinner was underway, and my parents and Amelia had not arrived. I tried to focus on the wonderful people who were present rather than those who were absent, but a familiar ache of disappointment threatened to surface. Jason had texted that he was running late but promised he was coming. At 7:45, just as I was accepting that my family had chosen Amelia's celebration over mine yet again, the door opened. Jason walked in, looking slightly harried but smiling broadly. "Sorry I'm late, sis," he said, kissing my cheek and handing me a large, clumsily wrapped package. Traffic was brutal. I blinked back tears, genuinely surprised he had chosen my dinner over Amelia's party. "You came." "Of course I came," he replied, looking slightly offended. "It's your 30th birthday. Where else would I be?" As we moved through dinner, Jason made a concerted effort to engage with my friends, asking about their work and listening attentively to their stories. I watched him with a mixture of surprise and gratitude, seeing glimpses of the brother I had wished for all these years, one who saw me as a person with a full life outside our family dynamics. During dessert, Jason clinked his glass for attention. "I'd like to make a toast to my sister," he announced, standing up. "Sophia, I haven't always been the brother you deserved." "Actually, that's an understatement." A self-deprecating smile crossed his face. "I've been pretty oblivious. But watching you tonight, surrounded by all these people who clearly adore you, I'm reminded of what an extraordinary person you are." He raised his glass higher. "To Sophia, who cares for sick children with compassion and skill, who remembers everyone else's birthday even when hers gets overlooked, who has built a life filled with genuine connections. I'm sorry it took me 30 years to really see you, but I'm grateful for the chance to do better going forward." Tears filled my eyes as the room echoed with "to Sophia." My brother's acknowledgement, public and sincere, felt like a gift I hadn't dared hope for. As we were preparing for cake, the door opened again. My parents stood hesitantly in the doorway, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. More surprising still was the absence of Amelia, who I had assumed would be their priority. My father approached first, formal but making an effort. "Happy birthday, Sophia. I apologize for our lateness." My mother followed, scanning the room with visible surprise at the number of people gathered to celebrate me. "The restaurant looks lovely," she offered awkwardly. I introduced them to my friends, watching as they navigated this unfamiliar territory, a social situation centered around me rather than themselves or their other children. They seemed genuinely surprised by how many people knew and valued me, as if they had never considered that I might have built a rich life beyond their limited perception. As the evening progressed, Aunt Lauren orchestrated a moment for me to speak privately with my parents in a corner of the room. "Where's Amelia?" I asked directly. "I assumed you'd be at her party." My parents exchanged glances before my father answered. "We postponed her celebration to next weekend." He cleared his throat. "Jason was quite insistent that we needed to be here tonight." I looked across the room at my brother, who caught my eye and gave a small nod. He had done more than just show up himself, he had advocated for me with our parents. After our conversation, my mother added hesitantly, "We realized we might have been She struggled visibly with the admission, somewhat inconsistent in how we celebrate our children. It wasn't a full acknowledgement of the pattern or its impact, but from my mother, even this partial recognition represented significant movement. This is a start, I said carefully. But we have a lot more to discuss about the past 9 years, and really, about our entire family dynamic. My father nodded stiffly. We can schedule a time to talk further. As they rejoined the broader group, I felt a complex mixture of emotions, gratification that they had made this first step, wariness about whether anything would truly change, hope that perhaps a new pattern could begin tonight. The evening concluded with cake and a chorus of happy birthday. Looking around at the smiling faces, friends who had chosen to celebrate me, an aunt who had always seen me, a brother making amends, parents taking tentative steps toward change, I felt something I had not expected: peace. Later that night, after the last guests had departed and I was gathering gift bags, Taylor found me sitting quietly at the empty table. "So, how does it feel?" she asked. "Your first properly celebrated birthday in a decade." I considered her question carefully. "It feels like a beginning," I replied. "Not just of a new decade of life, but of a new way of existing in my family, one where I don't make myself small anymore." "Good," she said firmly. "Because you've never been small, Sophia. They just didn't have the sense to see how big you are." 6 months have passed since that pivotal birthday celebration. The healing process with my family has been neither simple nor linear. There have been steps forward and backward, moments of genuine connection followed by frustrating regressions into old patterns. I've continued therapy with Dr. Rivera, working through 30 years of family dynamics that can't be resolved in a single conversation or birthday dinner. She's helped me maintain boundaries without expecting immediate transformation from my parents. My friendship with Taylor and Mason has deepened further, strengthened by their unwavering support during this period of family recalibration. They continue to remind me of my worth on days when family interactions leave me doubting again. Jason has made the most consistent effort at change. He calls regularly, remembers details about my work, and recently defended me when my mother dismissed a professional achievement. Our relationship has evolved into something resembling actual siblinghood rather than parallel existence within the same family. My parents are trying, in their limited way. They've scheduled regular family dinners and make visible efforts to ask about my life, though they sometimes slip into old habits of centering conversations around Jason's business or Amelia's auditions. I've learned to gently but firmly redirect these moments, a skill that would have been unthinkable to me a year ago. Amelia has been the slowest to adjust to the new family dynamic. Initially resentful of the attention shift, she has gradually begun to recognize the imbalance that existed for years. Last month, she called specifically to tell me about a callback rather than waiting for our parents to broadcast it, a small but meaningful acknowledgement of my place in her life. I've grown in self-advocacy beyond my family relationships. At work, I applied for a leadership position I would have previously convinced myself I didn't deserve. I've started dating again, this time with clearer expectations about how I deserve to be treated. I've even begun volunteering as a mentor for nursing students, finding joy in helping others recognize their value in a healthcare system that often mirrors family dynamics in its hierarchical structure. Most significantly, I've stopped waiting to be seen and celebrated by others, instead learning to validate my own experiences and achievements. This doesn't mean I don't appreciate external recognition, I absolutely do, but my self-worth is no longer dependent on it. As my 31st birthday approaches, my mother has already mentioned plans for a family dinner. Whether this represents genuine change or a temporary adjustment remains to be seen, but the simple fact that my birthday exists on their calendar marks progress I once thought impossible. If you're watching this and recognize yourself in my story, if you felt invisible in your own family or pushed aside for someone else's spotlight, please know that your feelings are valid. You deserve to be seen, celebrated, and valued exactly as you are. Sometimes the hardest part is believing that yourself before others can believe it too. The journey toward being truly seen begins with seeing yourself clearly and demanding no less from those who claim to love you. It's not selfish to expect basic recognition and respect. It's not unreasonable to want your birthday remembered. It's not too much to ask for a place at the family table that isn't in the shadows. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself in your family? What helped you find the courage to do it? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Thank you for listening to my journey from family ghost to fully present person. Sometimes the best birthday gift is the one you finally give yourself: permission to matter.